Okay, so the other day I received in the mail a package that I've been waiting for a while. And this is my Kendall 2-in-1 hot work station, 2-in-1 workstation with the, we have the soldering pencil here, and we have the hot air gun right here. After unboxing it, I was taking a look at it, and it looks really nice. I mean, it looks professionally made, and it looks like it would be a fairly decent unit. However, it is, obviously Chinese. I paid $79 for this with $10 in shipping and handling from Amazon. And the old adage is I'm assuming that you will get what you pay for. But what do we get for our $79? Well, what we get is we do get a hot air gun right here, which we can use for soldering or desoldering or heat shrink tubing, or in my case I'll also be using it for taking off those pesky threads after I get done sewing and embroidering, and maybe some other little projects that I can think of here and there. You also get the 3 additional tips for the hot air gun, and then you get a total of 6 soldering tips, and they range from a very pointy tip to a pointy tip to a medium ballpoint, and then you get the flat tip, and then you get a chisel tip, and then you get this little knife tip over here, which you might even be able to use for like wood burning or something of that particular nature. It also comes with a replacement ceramic insert for the pencil. This is a ceramic heating element here, and as you can see, there is a ceramic element in the soldering iron already, and it is a little discolored as I've already turned it on and made sure that this works. But for 6 different tips, it's not too bad. You get a nice little selection of tips right there, and basically all you do is you just select your tip that you want to use. In this case, we'll take the little chisel tip here, and you just slide it on, and then take your little metal cowl, and then you would just spin it on like that. Now, in order to replace the ceramic tip, you would just unscrew this plastic knurled adapter, and this whole section would just pull out, and then you'll find the ceramic tip inside, which is replaceable. The pencil tip has this yellow rubberized grip. It actually feels quite nice. It feels like you would get some very good grip out of it. If your hands tend to sweat a little bit, it might actually help with grabbing onto it and keeping a good hold of it. It does not seem to get very hot at all. In fact, I don't think I've even registered any temperature difference in the handle the last time that I used it, or turned it on anyway. So that was a good, nice little thing. I was afraid that the handle would get a little warm, but it doesn't. And it fits real nicely right into the holder, which we have. It comes with, and it does come with a little sponge right there, which I have not hydrated yet, so it's still completely flat and dry. But it would just plug in right there and just stay right there, out of your way. The base, however, is a little light. I would have liked to have seen that have a little bit more weight to it. It tends to slide around a little bit. Maybe I can put something in there. Maybe I have some rubber feet I might actually put on that to give it a little bit more grip, to keep it from sliding all over the place. It's about the only thing I really don't like about the holder. It does actually have some holes at the top right there. I believe you can actually take some of your tips, other than this knife tip right here, and you can actually tip them upside down and actually put them and store them right there out of your way if you so desire. But as I said, the knife tip does not fit in there. It's just a little bit too wide and doesn't want to go in. But all the other ones will fit, no problem. and it gives you a total of 8 slots. So if you have any additional tips, they might slide right in there as well. The actual iron itself is a 5-pin, and it goes right into the front of the unit, such as like so. You just plug it in, and then you just take the little metal knurled knob and screw it in. Now, one thing I have noticed was that both on the pencil and the end of the cable here, it screws on very nicely and very easily. You don't really have to force it. I was afraid they were going to be a little tight, but they seem to be machined quite nicely, and I was kind of surprised with that. But it was a nice welcome addition. The front plate, we'll go over here real quickly. There is a main power switch on the back, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But the main power switch on the back, you'll see has 3 horizontal lines indicating that the unit is not working. Now on the front, in between the 2 displays, you'll see a switch, and that switch is a manual and an auto. When this is in manual mode, the heat gun will just come on like it is right now. I have it in manual mode. However, I have not turned the actual power switch right here on. In the automatic mode, it will not turn on the heating element until it has been removed from the cradle, and I will demonstrate that right now. We have the power switch for the hot air gun, which is registering in temperatures of Celsius from 0 to 480 degrees Celsius. And now when I flip this to automatic, you'll see that it immediately goes back to 3 horizontal lines. When I lift it up from the base, it does come on, and it will automatically turn on and engage the heating element. And then when you place it back in, it actually turns itself off, or turns off the heating element, and it will stay in the off position until you remove it from the cradle. If you put it in manual mode, it instantly comes on, and it will stay on continuously regardless if it's in the cradle or not. Now on the front right here, we have 3 dials. This dial right here controls the airflow. And you can probably hear that spin up. Now the instruction manual for this actually says about 120 milliliters flow per minute. Okay, this is my instruction manual. The first thing to notice about the instruction manual is that this is for what they call their 878 series or their 898 series. This is an 862. So needless to say that none of these are going to be anything reliable. I can't even guarantee as to the validity of any of these numbers on this particular unit. So as far as I'm concerned, it's junk. I've already read through it. There's really nothing in it. Anything that it pertains to does not exist on my machine. I don't have manual buttons up and down to select the temperature and things of that nature. So to me, it's just a big waste of time. About the only good thing was the picture on the back that showed me where to put the 2 screws in the side to hook the holder up onto the side of the unit. Big deal. That being said, we have over here, we have another dial. This dial will increase the temperature from 100 until 480 degrees Celsius. And that is for your hot air gun. And you'll see that the numbers that are rising are trying to indicate the actual current temperature of the heating element. It does heat up very quickly, I will say that much. Of course, being a hot air gun, I mean, it should heat up relatively quickly. I don't know how accurate that indicator is, and we'll get into that in a little bit as well. But you can, again, you can vary the amount of air coming out of the end of the unit, and you can actually vary, your airflow with these nozzles. But I will say this much, that the airflow coming out of there, if you're not careful, some of the smaller components on your board, your smaller surface mount chips, can easily be blown off the board. So it does have a little bit of an airflow to it, believe it or not, which is kind of a nice welcome little thing. Soldering station is very similar. You turn that on, and immediately your pencil tip begins to heat up. And it also will go up to a maximum of 480 degrees Celsius, which I believe is like 800 some odd degrees Fahrenheit. And again, I can't verify the validity of those numbers and as to the actual temperature of the gun. I will say this much, that it does seem to heat up fairly quickly, which is a nice thing. So, I am going to try an experiment later and see if I can't determine the actual temperature of the actual tip and just how close it is to the actual numbers on the digital readout. So what I'll do next is I'll turn the camera off and I'll come back, and I'm going to take the screws off of the side, and we'll take the cover off and we'll take a quick peek inside and see what this is made of. So we'll be back in just a moment. Okay, so we're back. And one quick note before I get going. I wanted to mention that the handle here for this actually fits nicely in my hand, which is kind of nice because I've got really big, long fingers, and it's easy to grip and hold. And as long as you don't go past this little ribbed area right here, or slotted area, it doesn't get hot at all. In fact, it stays very cool to the touch, and it's very easy to maneuver around. And it actually feels good in the hand, at least my hand anyway. And it doesn't feel overweighted or anything, and it feels relatively solid in construction. Also, the same thing goes for the buttons. The switches and everything all seem to have a very positive click and feel. The buttons, they seem very responsive and very snappy. And the dials they're smooth, and there seems to be little to no play in any of these potentiometers whatsoever, which is kind of nice. As I said, I paid $79 for it, so again, you're going to be getting what you pay for. So let's take a look here and see what we can come up with. Okay, now that I have the camera in my hand, we can move around a little bit more. And we'll take a look at the back real quick, and you'll see that there is a main power switch, and there is a little bus fuse right here. It is a 1 amp bus fuse, very small, little tiny one. But it is a 1 amp bus fuse, or so it says that it is. Also, the soldering iron is a 60 watt iron from what I can understand, or what I've been told. But yet on the sticker it says output is 70 watts, but I'm assuming that that's because there's probably an additional 10 watts for the actual heat gun itself. But on the back it does say, 70 watt output. And as promised, I have already taken off the screws, so we can actually move this out of the way. And we can now take a peek inside and see what this looks like. Okay. For $79, this is pretty much what I thought it would look like. Nothing fantastic. It's not the greatest. It's not the worst I've seen. But it's about average middle. One of the first things that I noticed, however, was right there. That is not something I would like to see. I would have preferred to have seen something crimped, not just soldered onto a lead. And in fact, I may actually change that out and actually crimp those on and actually make a better connection. And the other thing I don't like is it looks like this wire right here, there's not a lot of play in this at all. So it's very tight in there. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more wiggle room It doesn't seem to be putting any undue stress on that joint, but I still would have rather have seen just a little bit more play in that wire right there. Overall, we can see that we have a little bit of a gap right there. So that that indicates to me that somebody didn't put a component in all of the way. And there was something I wanted. Oh yeah. According to the manual, which is not for this unit, it states that they're using Samsung microcomputer processors and PID technology to enhance temperature stability. But that's for the 898 series. I have not found a single chip on here that is identifiable as a Samsung microchip. And in fact, the only one that I can find, the only microchips that I can find are that one right there, which I cannot even really read the markings on these because they're just so lightly imprinted. So I don't even know what they are, but that's obviously the main microcontroller right there. There are, however, a couple more. There's one right here, which is a white one. I don't know if I can get the shot in there of that one right there, but it's macro, so I don't know. There we go. There's also another one down here by underneath this heat sink right here, which is very similar to the other white one that I just showed you. There's one down here by this microprocessor, or this potentiometer, and again I can't make out the markings on those. And I think there's one more hidden here someplace. Yeah, there's one more right down here, which is very similar to the other one that I just showed you. And again, I can't make out the markings on that, but again, this is no surprise considering, this is just a $79, little unit that I picked up. Another thing to notice is that there is no solder marks at all on the back end, none whatsoever. Everything is soldered on this side of the board. There's nothing on this side, and in fact, there's actually two little leads which are down in here, which I don't think are going to be almost impossible to make out with this camera, but there you go. There's two leads right there, and you can, when you look at them, you'll realize there's no solder marks. You can actually see where it goes into the board a little bit. So everything was soldered on the opposite side. It was nice that they put, try to glue things in place to keep them from coming out, keep them from being pulled out anyways, which I don't think would be that big of a deal on something of this particular nature, given the fact that there's, not a lot of being tugged on it. The main blue power cable wire coming out is a little thinner in diameter than the red wire. Now, I don't know if this just means that the gauge of the wire is the same and they have different thickness insulation, or if there's a physical difference in the overall gauge of the wire. I would hope that it would be at least the same gauge. I'm not a real big fan of going from smaller gauge to bigger gauge, but there really is no way for me to know that right now without taking it apart or cutting the wires, and I'm not about to go in and do that. Maybe if it breaks later on, maybe I'll do that, but I don't really care to do that right now. The transformer, it's just an average transformer, nothing big. This is just a 110 volt transformer, with 28 and 32 and 110 output. It goes into, the main board here and gets distributed. There are two potentiometers. There's one right there, and then there's one right here. I'm willing to bet that these two pots will allow me to change the regulation on the heat to the gun and the iron, so that if maybe the temperatures weren't calibrated, I might be able to calibrate them a little bit with those two. And again, I'm kind of at that point where I'm not really quite sure how I'm going to accurately measure the output of the actual heat gun and the soldering tip. But that's the inside of the unit right there. And again, you know, for $79 for a little hobby thing, you know, it's not too bad, really. Again, I've seen worse and I've seen better. But you get what you pay for, obviously, like I've said before. So that's not too bad. So next thing I'll do is I'll pause this and I'll come back and see if I can't figure out a way to maybe take a measurement of the heat output, and we'll see if we can do that. So stay tuned. Okay, so I'm back again after giving this some thought as to how I was going to do this. I haven't really been able to come up with a really good way of getting an accurate temperature off of the pencil tip. I spared you all the boring video of me trying to figure out how to do this and how I eventually got the temperatures up and stable, but I was having a hard time with the pencil point. I just wasn't getting enough good contact on the thermometer. I tried putting a little bit of solder on one of the tips. That helped a little bit to give me more surface, but it was still fluctuating back and forth. So I decided that I would try the heat gun, and what I did is I used the smallest of the tips that I have for the heat gun, which is about almost the exact diameter of the probe on my thermometer here. Stuck it in there, and I have been letting this run now for about almost 8 minutes. And as you can probably see, I'm sorry, but I got the light coming in from the side of the window here. The thermometer is reading 193 degrees, and it's reading 195 degrees on the actual window. That's not too bad. That's within plus or minus 2 degrees of the actual window. I can actually live with that. I was actually very much surprised when I saw just how close the actual readout was to the thermometer reading. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that if somebody took the time to actually calibrate the heat gun this well, that there's probably a really good chance that the pencil point too may also be fairly close to what the readout is. So I'm feeling a little bit more confident as to the overall temperatures. So I'm hoping that this will actually start working out fairly decent for me. I guess the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot some video of me actually trying to remove a component off of the board. What I've come up with is I have this old USB port that I've had for quite some time that hasn't really been working all that great. And as you can see, it's got a bunch of surface-mounted capacitors and resistors all over the place here. And I thought I would give it a shot and see how easy it would be to remove one of those resistors or one of the other components and to put it back on, and to see how much time it took me, and to see how difficult it would be to use. So I'm going to pause the video again, and I will come back and I will shoot some more video of me actually in the process of doing this. So hang on, and hopefully very shortly I'll be right back. Okay, as promised, I'm back, and I am going to attempt to remove one of these resistors, and I apologize now. This is about as close as I'm going to be able to get, I believe, with my camera. Well, I was close before, but apparently not now. But I am going to attempt to remove this resistor right here. Now, I have the readout set for 283. So let's just see how quick and easy this actually is. So I have the smallest of my tips on here to try to concentrate the heat only on this particular chip, so I don't get too many of the surrounding areas all heated up. And we're just going to apply the heat right there for a little bit. And then I'll take my little tweezers. And look at that. Came right off. No problem. So now if I wanted to replace it again, I would just take the rework, the hot iron here, and rewarm that up, and just drop that back into place. And hopefully take that off, let it sit there for a minute or two, and as you can see, that is completely soldered back on. Just that quick, just that easy. It's just that neat. There was no muss, no fuss. Overall, I have to say that was probably the easiest I have ever removed a surface mount. I mean, I'm not a professional, I'm just a little bit of a hobbyist, but I do have to admit that that is probably the easiest that I have ever done that in my entire life. I don't know if I can get in there, but let's see if I can zoom out and get up closer. Not really, but it is fairly clean. It looks pretty good. So that's not a bad little solder joint right there. And as you can see, it didn't take me very long at all. It actually worked really well. So let's just see here. I paid $79 for this. Okay. I'm only a hobbyist. I don't really require anything to be super precise. But for $79, I'm happily, I'm actually pretty happy with the way that this actually turned out. I was a little bit more surprised than I thought I would be as to how even the temperature was and how accurate it was. If I wanted something that I could reliably say that would be, you know, within a tolerance of plus or minus, you know, like maybe 1 or even a half a degree or more, yeah, I'd probably spend a few hundred or maybe even $1,000 for a good rework station, you know, with maybe a vacuum pump and a few other little things. But I'm just a hobbyist. For $79, I would have to say that you would be hard-pressed to find something that performs as well as this unit does and gives you the features that you get for the money that you're going to pay for it. I'm very happy. Again, this is not something that I would consider, you know, scientific quality or anything of that nature. It's good enough for the $79. I'm thinking that for $79, I think I got a fairly better deal than I thought that I was going to get. I'm overall happy with the performance. I like how everything fits in my hands. It fits nicely. You know, it has a fairly long cord on it to plug into the wall. It just seems to fit my needs, and overall performance worked better than I had expected. If you have any questions or comments, just let me know, and I'll try to answer them for you if I can. But other than that, I think I got a heck of a deal. So maybe you guys think that I got a good deal too. So with that, I'm really happy, and thanks for watching.